Hey guys, it's Tony, and we're back on the bench. And this afternoon, we're going to be doing a reassembly service here on a Quantum spinning reel. So we're looking at a Quantum Optix Model 40. And as you can see, we've got it all taken apart. This reel needed a lot of cleaning and some other service interval type stuff. It had some bearing noise, and it's a 4-ball bearing reel, and we've got all the bearings out here now. And I did a separate video in this, and you can check that out on the YouTube channel. But I actually did service these ball bearings here, these three. There's a main one, and then these two outer ones here. They did clean up quite a bit better actually now, I think. So hopefully that eliminates that. The only other way to remedy that problem is simply just to replace the bearing. And I wasn't quite sure if that would be worth it with this particular reel. This belongs to my buddy Dan, and it's kind of a reel I think that is used quite a bit when he takes his trips, and so I wanted to get it fixed up for him. So we're going to start here and talk a little bit about the housing here. And so we've cleaned all this up. We've taken out all the old grease and everything, taken some degreaser and some toothbrushes, Q-tips, and clean out all these crevices and whatnot. Okay, and then we've gone through all these parts and have pretty much done the same WD-40 cleaning, just cleaning out all these gear teeth and stuff like that. Okay, so we're going to start simply here, with all these pieces here. So we're going to reassemble our pinion gear assembly and the main bearing. All right, so we're going to start with that pinion shaft, and we're going to apply some blue grease, some Pin Precision blue grease to the shaft here, or the gear on the shaft, I should say, like so. Okay, and then we've got our main bearing. Now I have serviced the bearing, flooded it with oil. Okay, it also doesn't hurt just to flood it on top with a little bit of extra oil and let that ooze down on the sides, and then that way you don't have problems removing it, hopefully, the next time you need to service it. Okay, so it's real nice like that. Okay, and we're going to rest this down into position like so. Okay, now we've got two set screws here that hold that in position, and we got to get those back in first. Hold that bearing in place. So this is a step-by-step process, and a lot of the cleaning and whatnot I typically do off camera because it's usually very time-consuming, but I describe all those steps when I do these service videos, and it's quite simple. You need to get all the old contaminants. There was a lot of sand and things of that sort in here. Okay, so that's spinning real nicely now. Okay, better than it was at least. Okay, so now we have our other pieces and parts here. So we've got this collar here, and I want to make sure that I clean the inside of this out the best I can before we go putting this back. All right, so this collar here rolls on the rollers in the roller bearing, which is right here. And technically, those roller bearings don't need to be lubed, really, because they're in a Teflon ring and they self-lubricate that way. However, it doesn't hurt to put just a little bit of grease or oil on the outside of this collar here just to prevent any rust damage. You could also do it with oil. The grease, I think, will hold up a little longer in this situation here. Okay, so we want to put that back in position like so. Okay, it goes like that. And then there is a Teflon ring, a very fine Teflon ring that has to go over that next. All right, and then we've got our roller bearing. Okay, and it's kind of hard to see these in there, but they're just basically a bunch of rollers. Okay, and we've cleaned them up the best that we can. We hosed them down with some WD-40. Okay, and so that goes like that. Now, before we forget, we're going to apply a little bit of real oil here and here on the anti-reverse lever. Okay, And then that way that can get worked accordingly. All right, and then we've got another Teflon washer that rests on top. All right, and then we've got just a metal washer. Okay, so all those pieces have to be accounted for, okay, before you can put your rotor back on. And in this case, we need to get the rotor back on before we can assemble the rest of the reel. Okay, so we've gone through our rotor. Okay, there was a lot of sand and things built up underneath here. Okay, we're going to apply a little bit of oil here. Okay, and then also some real oil along here, the bail seams. Let that work its way in there. Okay, now the only thing that we haven't checked here is the line roller, but I noticed that it was kind of firm and kind of stuck. It wasn't really rolling. I believe on this particular model it is supposed to roll. Not all of them do actually roll, even though they're called, you know, line rollers or line guides. On a lot of older models, they're not actually designed to roll. Some of these have bearings in them. A lot of the time they're just bushings though. But we can see right here, so we've actually got some corrosion damage right here. It's a little hard to see. You know, there's some sand and stuff like that. So we're just going to clean it off right now with a little bit of penetrating oil. Let's see if we can't, you know, free that up there a little bit. Okay. Just clean it off with a towel. And we'll go back with a little bit of real oil on top. Won't hurt anything. So we basically have there's like a bushing here, a plastic bushing, and it's got a metal washer on the outside here. Okay, so you just want to account for that. And we'll go back with a little bit of real oil on this screw here. And we'll see if that helps that roller turn a little better. But again, even if it doesn't actually roll, not all of them are truly designed to roll. Some of them are, some of them are not. A lot of the modern ones are. There's older ones where they're just simply meant to, you know, let the line curl, you know, around them. Okay, so I think that's better. All right, so we're ready to put this back on, like so. So we've got a rotor nut that's got to go back on. I believe that was a 14 mil, if I recall correctly. And we're going to give that a couple of turns with the wrench here. And we're just going to snug it up gently, and then we'll take our set screw and put that back in position here. Okay, so that's good there. Now we're ready to get into the rest of our pieces here. Okay, so we've cleaned up all these teeth really well. We're going to start with the blue grease underneath here a little bit and on those teeth. Like so. And we're going to set that down into position there. All right, we've cleaned up our main shaft and our main gear set. Okay, so we're going to prep these and get these ready to install. Do a little bit of blue grease here and on the teeth. You don't have to get every single tooth, but it'll work its way in. You want to get just enough on there, but you don't want to overdo it. There is such a thing as over greasing. Okay, you have something like that. We'll put a little bit here on the outside too, just a little bit. Okay, so now, before we get too far along though, we've got a bearing that we need to put back in. We're just going to flood that with a little bit of oil, and we're going to set that back down into position like so. Might need to pull this crosswind gear back out just for a moment while we do that. Like that. That. And that. Okay. It should look like that. Now, we've got our block, crosswind block. We've cleaned this up, took out all the old grease that was stuck in that groove there. And we're going to rest this back down into position here. And then we're going to take our main shaft, drive shaft, and we're going to slide that back down and meet up down below here with the holes, line them up. Get those lined up just right there, and then do a little bead of oil here. We've got a tiny little set screw to put there. So again, you know, if you have this reel, or if you're thinking of buying this reel, you can watch these videos and learn how to service the reel. And that's the whole point of this. Because there's lots of folks, they have fishing reels, and sometimes they break, or parts need to be replaced, and they don't know what to do. Or, you know, they just assume it's, you know, it's junk at that point, you know, nothing can be replaced. Well, that's not entirely true. There's plenty of things that can be replaced on lots of reels. You just have to, you know, you have to see, you know, what's actually going on, you know, with the reel. All right, so we got our ratchet here, clicker ratchet that's got to go back on, and then there's a spacer washer there. We'll put those on right now. Okay, now here we've got our bearing. Okay, I'm just going to put a little light film of oil on top there. Okay, and again, we've already serviced these bearings. Okay, now it should be good to put our side plate back on like so. All right, we've got these 3 screws here. We're just going to put a little bit of real oil on these just to protect the threads, because I know my friend uses this reel in salt water from time to time, so I want to make sure that it stays in good shape that way. And we're going to spin these up. Okay. So now we got our handle, and we're just going to take a little bit of real oil to that there. Let that work its way in, a little bit here on the seam. There is a little bit of salt spray damage to this, and you know, that's just what happens, you know. And we're going to take a little blue grease here to the handle shaft. I'll keep that protected. And a little bit of oil on those threads there. Keep those protected. Okay. Now, last but not least, we've got our drag stack, and we've cleaned off all the washers the best that we can. I do believe these washers have a little bit of life left in them, so I don't think there's any real need to replace them. Okay, but we've cleaned out the inside of our spool here. Got all the old dirt and sand and stuff. There was quite a bit under here, underneath the spool. So we got all that out. We're going to want to go back with a little bit of real oil here, right on that clicker. And then we have our stack. All right, so this has these fabric style washers. Okay, and what I usually do with these is, I'll spread all these out here. And yeah, they're definitely, tarnished. They've been around the block, more than a couple of times. But what you can do is just take a light film of oil to these, just a little bit. Work that in there, and that'll help preserve these. Okay, and that's really all you need to do. There's nothing more. And then go back in the reverse order. Fabric washer, metal washer, fabric, keyed, fabric, metal, accordingly. And then you got your retainer ring that has to go back in, like so. Okay. I'll get the gloves off here for the remainder of this. And slap that back on like so. Looks good. All this is good here. So the first thing we can do is check our drag. Yeah, those drags are real nice and smooth, and they're totally functioning, so there's no problem there at all. Make sure you back this off when you're not using it. Okay, and we're just going to see how the rest of the reel performs. Still a little bit of bearing noise, but it's not too bad. It's still, somewhat of a smooth operator. And, ultimately what you would want to do is probably replace that main bearing, to make it a little quieter, but some bearings are just noisier by default. Ceramic bearings actually have a tendency to be louder than stainless steel bearings. In this case, these are stainless steel bearings, but all in all, it's not too bad. Bale fire's fine, it looks like. Try it once more. So that's all good, and the anti-reverse works good. So there you have it. That is the Quantum Optix 40, all serviced and ready to go. And thanks again for watching. This is Tony with Back on the Bench. If you liked the video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to see more, please make sure you do subscribe. Hit the notification button. That way you will get all the updates as to when there are new videos being posted, and there will be quite a few more coming out here shortly. So stay tuned for those, and we'll see you next time.